in the world of policy and of families and of people going to work, there was nothing in that bill that was very good for anybody in America.
Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse confessed that the debt ceiling bill that Biden signed into law did nothing to improve the lives of ordinary Americans. In fact, it was pretty negative for ordinary people. However, as we've shared with you before in the past, in regard to this whole negotiation, Sheldon Whitehouse agrees that this was actually a great move for the Biden administration, which makes little to no sense to me, but why don't we hear him out?
Democrats would appear to be operating from a place of strength right now. How do you expect that to impact priorities across both chambers going into the upcoming election year?
Well, I think if you look at the quiet signing ceremony that Joe Biden had, he did not take a big victory lap. I think he understands that in the cage match of Washington, D.C. politics, he gave the Republicans one heck of a thrashing. But in the world of policy and of families and of people going to work, there was nothing in that bill that was very good for anybody in America. But what he did do was he teed us up for 2024 quite well by showing that the Republicans were extremists, by putting the entire House Republican caucus on record, voting for a bill that would cost 700,000 jobs and provoke a recession, and being unwilling to change one crooked tax loophole in the tax code.
What? So if you look at who actually voted in favor of the legislation, you have a ton of Democrats who voted in favor of the legislation. How exactly is this debt ceiling bill going to bode well for the Democratic Party, considering how many of them voted? And I'll give you the numbers in just a moment. But one other thing I want to just quickly mention, he's likely referring to the extreme bill that the House GOP had voted on, and he's hanging his hat on that, arguing that that is precisely what the American people are gonna look at and judge Republicans by. Except most Americans don't know about that bill that House Republicans voted for. They have no idea. And when they look at this, the bill that actually passed and Biden signed into law, they'll see that there's a ton of Democrats who voted in favor of it. In fact, I'm gonna go to a quote from House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, a Republican, after the passage of the bill, after Democrats signed onto it. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy could barely hold back his glee with reporters. He said, quote, "I think it's wonderful that Democrats voted for it because they are now on record," McCarthy said. "Let's get the rest of the IRS agents. Let's get the rest of the work requirements. Let's cut more because we are in a big debt."
Yeah, so I used to get frustrated with Democrats, but I've basically given up. I think they're hopeless. And that's a perfect example of it. Guys, you saw it with your own eyes. He says, it won't help one American. And it was a big win for us Democrats. Well, there's something very wrong with that sentence. So let's break it up. So there's first part that's wrong is obvious, which is we don't really care what helps you. We care what helps us. So we thrashed the Republicans in Washington, D.C., and Biden did a great job for the Democratic Party. By the way, that's not true. That's the second part I'm gonna get to. Okay, but great job for us. Oh, you guys got screwed, but I'm celebrating here. I'm celebrating. Okay, so that's problem number one. Not a good look to say the least. Number two, he's wrong. It's not a win for the Democrats, and they didn't thrash the Republicans. No, the Republicans kicked their ass. They didn't have to negotiate anything. They didn't have to give up anything. Biden wanted to give those things up. And by the way, now that he has cut defense and all the things that Kevin McCarthy said in his glee were unfortunately correct, now they're gonna say, okay, you own it. Nobody's gonna remember, Anna's 100% right. Nobody's gonna remember the bill that didn't pass, that Republicans voted on in the House, and the Democrats aren't gonna run their campaigns on one stupid proposal. They're not even gonna mention it ever again in their lives.
100%.
Right? So all they're gonna remember is Biden's the president, and Biden passed a bill that cut spending, that cut benefits, that cut from the average American, and that even Democrats agree doesn't help a single American citizen. What a terrible, stupid, dumb idea. But that is very standard for the Democratic Party, not the voters. The voters are screwed beyond recognition, right? But the Democratic Party leadership and their politicians are the worst of the worst. The only people I can imagine being worse are Republicans and conservatives. Why? The Republicans are laughing their ass off. We got to screw the American people and put it on the Democrats. So it was their intent and they wanted to do it. The guy who wrote an article about this in the first place that drew attention is also a conservative writer. So conservatives are now gloating, like, ha ha, we got you to do all of our dirty work, you idiot Joe Biden. Now we're gonna blame you for the thing we came up with. So, I mean, it's a parade of horribles. They're just, everyone involved in Washington is disgusting.
I know, Cenk, but did you consider the fact that Democrats are operating from a place of strength?
A place of strength. Okay. No, place of strength is 14th Amendment. I'm done with it. I dare you to try to ruin the debt ceiling and crash the stock market and watch your donors absolutely eviscerate you. I dare you. That's a place of strength. Yeah, I gave them most of what they wanted, but I didn't give them all they wanted, and we screwed the average American. It's just gonna work out for us. Not a place of strength. And by the way, the thing that particularly disgusts me about this is Sheldon Whitehouse is a smart guy, and on other issues he can be pretty effective. But the Washington virus will rot anyone's brain, even a smart guy like Sheldon Whitehouse's, okay? Total brain rot, like losing is winning. Is it? Is it? No, you guys are all in an alternate reality, and I'm just telling the audience, because you can't tell them. They have brain rot, they won't listen, they're in a cult.
Sheldon Whitehouse might be smart, he might even be a good dude, but he runs with a bunch of bad dudes.
He does. Okay. I don't know if Corn Pop's among them.
All right, so let's break down the numbers real quick, because if you look at who voted for the debt ceiling bill, which did nothing to raise taxes on the rich, which did nothing to cut spending or even freeze spending on defense, but certainly did implement work requirements for the poor, certainly did implement spending cuts, they call it a spending cap, but with inflation, spending cuts on social spending programs that help ordinary Americans. I mean, Democrats should not have voted for this, but they did. So in the House, the final tally was 314 to 117, and it would suggest rather easy passage in the upcoming vote in the Senate. This was written by the Washington Post before the bill passed in the Senate.
And it was incredibly easy in the Senate, of course.
Yep, and I'll get to that right now. The legislation passed the Senate by a vote of 63 to 36. They didn't have to worry about the legislative filibuster there.
Can I just say one thing about those numbers?
Sure.
The Uniparty's back. Corporate Democrats and Republicans.
It's always been there.
Yeah,
it's always been there.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's the essence of Congress. That's the 2/3 of Congress that is irrevocably corrupt. The rest of it has a lot of corruption too. But that 2/3 center is what the media celebrates bipartisanship, because it's corporate rule defined. And there is, in economic issues between the corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans, as we've told you 100 times, and this proves clearly, there is no difference at all. They both gladly walk right into this and did something that they didn't need to do at all, and it's in the numbers indisputably.
In fact, let's stay at the Senate numbers, because if you take a look at who voted in favor of the legislation in the Senate, you'll see a pretty significant majority of Democrats voted in favor. In fact, more Democrats than Republicans voted in favor of the bill.
That's also, by the way, true in the House, led by the Republicans. So Joe Biden's the president, he owns it, as we talked about before. And now more Democrats voted for this garbage of a bill that helps the rich, that helps defense contractors, hurts the average American. More Democrats voted for it than Republicans. You can't be a better sucker. Okay, so that means, and we've told you 100 times, they're not suckers, they're paid to lose.
So this is also incredibly depressing, although given the recent history with the Progressive Caucus, I guess unsurprising. So 66% of congressional Progressive Caucus members voted for the deal, including
Progressive Caucus,
including Representative Ilhan Omar. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So who cares? Ilhan Omar's not my cousin. It's a terrible vote, and it was a disastrous, ill-advised, awful vote. Who cares? Why would I care that Ilhan Omar voted for it? So, and by the way, the ones that voted against it, I'll be honest with you, I'll go further. Tons of them voted against it because they were released from the vote.
Well, in fact, why don't we give you an excerpt from one of David Dayen's recent pieces on this issue? And his argument is that this is not gonna bode well for Democrats. And here's what he writes. What has Representative Pramila Jayapal, remember she's the head of the Progressive Caucus, concerned is that so many Democrats affirmed the agreement. quote, "Our strategy was to not give them one vote more than what they needed to pass," Jayapal told the American Prospect in an interview last Friday, "with enough of a strong no vote to make clear that it was not a good deal." Pramila, the only thing that matters is if the bill passes.
Yeah, and
that's all that matters. That's it. That's all that matters. Okay, all these like cute little games that they're playing mean nothing to the ordinary voter.
It's worse than that, Anna. She just told on herself.
Yeah, she did.
She just said we would have voted for the deal if they needed the votes. But we did a show vote, a fake vote, voting against the deal because they didn't need the votes. But trust me that we would have sold out given the opportunity and the need for it. The worst leader ever, like makes Joe Biden look strong. So this is not the leader of the Progressive Caucus, but to be honest, with 2/3 of the so-called Progressive Caucus voting for this junk corporate awful deal, it's not really a Progressive Caucus, but everything in Washington is fake. All of it is fake, all of it is theater. And so of course they screwed you. That's their job. And then the media rushes in with pom-poms going, yay, what a great deal. You guys got screwed again. Our corporate bosses are so happy. So they're giving pats on the head to all the corporate Republicans and Democrats. This is the uniparty absolutely screwing you. We've shown you 100 times now what's in the deal. What's in the deal hurts you in every imaginable way. And thank you, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, for admitting that. You weren't supposed to admit that, but you slipped up and went, oh yeah, this doesn't help any American at all. Wait, did I say that out loud? Yes, you did. We were right all along. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.